there has to be this inner resolve that you will not give up regardless. If there is any tiny part of you that you know is going to fold at a problem, the Vendée Globe will find it. It just slowly washes over you this, I'm going to do this. I'm about to do this. I don't have to, there's nothing else. There's no other obstacles. I'm going to do this. And we got out to the line and it was really foggy and there were these postponements and we were, you know, just kind of kicking around for a while and then all of a sudden the fog lifted and there was sunshine and you look to the left and there's Charal and you know and bosses to the right and my team jumped off and it's, you know, 5 minutes to go and I unfurled to Jenica and it's like, and I'm going to hit the line and I'm not last. And it was just amazing. It was amazing. I just was so full of just this incredible excitement and happiness and gratitude and I was so excited and looking forward to what was ahead. It was amazing, no question. It was absolutely amazing. So there we go. I've started the Vendée Globe. We're now just under an hour into the race. Had a great start. Great start. It was awesome. So one of the main problems that we have around forecasts is it's a forecast. And so, you know, in order to understand whether the strategy that your routing software is putting towards you is the correct one, you do need to be able to understand, you know, how close the forecast is to reality. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. One way is with a SCAT file, so measured wind from satellite, and that's a very useful way of doing things, especially in high pressure. But the other way is to look at satellite images where you know there's going to be significant cloud patterns that would demonstrate where particular weather features are, like fronts and depressions, and then to overlay them onto a forecast, and that will give you a really clear indication of how close the forecast is to reality. And I used that wherever possible to pretty good effect. And actually, I think that forecast is pretty much spot on, which gives me some confidence to carry on in the direction I'm going. Shinning yourself up a 30-metre pole in the middle of the ocean with a boat that's sailing underneath you, it's a crazy thing to do. Because I hate doing this, but the conditions are just about perfect. I've got all my kit together, so I'm going to be climbing using this, and it's not unsafe in terms of the fact that, you know, we use the right equipment and we've trained to do it and all that sort of thing, but it is unsafe because you're up a 30-foot pole in the middle of the ocean with an IMOCA underneath you, and so, you know, I did train to do it, and I've had to do it a couple of times before. I had to do it on the light wave and on the mini, and I knew I hated it and it terrified me, but I sort of dealt with it in the build up to the race by going, nah, it's not going to happen to me, I won't need to do that. And I think a couple of other people had to go up at the same time as me, but I was pretty much one of the first people in the race to have to climb the mast. But actually loads of people did. It's been a proper, we've all been going up and down masts like nobody's business. But and I guess the interesting thing was it was for a piece of elastic that was broken, and I took a photo of it and I sent it to Joff, my technical director, and I said to Joff, do you think I should climb the mast and sort this out? And Joff said, look, if we were halfway through the race, then no. But it's week one, and you know that elastic was put there for a reason, because my spreaders articulate a huge amount. He said, if you're up, you know, if you feel up to it, I really think you should do it. And then it's one of these moments of am I a Vendée skipper or aren't I a Vendée skipper? I didn't have to do it, but I made myself do it because that's the person that I wanted to be. But I hated it, and if you ask me to do it again now, I'm never ever ever going to love that. It is terrifying. Oh God, I'm shaking so much. Look at all that horizon. Isn't it beautiful? It's amazingly beautiful. If I wasn't shaking so much, I'd appreciate it a lot more. I didn't want to let go. I did not want those guys to just sail away from me, and they were. And so I just started sailing like a maniac, just trying absolutely everything. I thought that the reason they were sailing away from me was because I wasn't trying hard enough. Today has not been a good day, and right now I am really angry with myself because I've just been trying too hard, and I've been leading with my heart and not my head, and I've managed to actually slow myself down by doing too many sail changes. And so, every time a squall came, I did reefed, sail change, every opportunity I could. The minute it looked like I could switch between my J2 and my code 0, I changed. And I didn't leave time in between. I just reacted in the same way that, I would sail the Mini like that. You could do that. You could sail it so hard. You could do the sail changes so quickly. And in the class 40 to a certain extent as well. But you can't do that with an IMOCA because it takes time. All of those sail changes take time, but they exhaust you too. And so, what I needed to do in that circumstance was actually just wait, just always wait, sit back, look at the numbers, understand the numbers a bit more, take that step back and be more analytical instead of sailing always by feel and this knee-jerk reaction of I'm not fast enough, right, I'm going to do this. And it was a hard lesson. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it stood me well because I think the same conditions, we had more of the same conditions coming back up the Atlantic, and I lost less. I hung on to those guys in front in a much more consistent way. So it was a lesson I needed to learn for sure. I need to remember this. It needs to be a lesson. Somewhere down the road. It took me a while to build up my confidence in the Southern Ocean. I was afraid of it when my first sort of system I took down there. I was afraid of it, but I think I'd done some weather preparation with Wouter Verbraak beforehand, and he talked me through a strategy, and actually the theory of what he talked through and the reality of what I was seeing was really, really close, which is unusual with the weather. But actually it seemed that the Southern Ocean weather systems were quite simple compared to what we get in the North Atlantic. And so I quickly realised that actually, one of the benefits of my boat is that in big breeze VMG, I can push. And so many of the other boats were backing off. And so strategically, I understood this was a position where this is a time when I can gain. So what I need to do is understand, how much wind is too much. And I'd already seen that I could definitely handle more wind than kind of the average course everyone was taking. And so what I was doing each time was just dropping south, dropping a few isobars closer to the centre of the low pressure, and then just kind of going from there. And okay, well, what difference did that make? I could have handled a bit more, so next time I'll go a little bit further south. But that is one of the massive strengths of that boat. It's ancient old tank, but you can push it really hard in a breeze.
I just don't have consistent wind data. I lost my spare wand from the top of the rig, like first week of the race in that big front. And then my main ones yesterday, absolutely no idea what happened to it. It's just completely seized up.
With the boat's performance, a lot of it just was around risk. So the autopilot, I use an NKEHR pilot, which is phenomenal. It's phenomenally good. And the benefit of being able to steer in wind mode in those conditions is actually, it's fast, it can surf down the waves, it's always getting that extra knot of speed out of the various conditions. But also, it just never crash jibed. They're so good now. And the minute I wasn't able to steer in wind mode anymore, I'm steering in compass mode, then the risk of the pilot crash jibing me was huge. Because you sail down a wave, the wind changes, bang, off you go. And so that affected performance because I couldn't sail as aggressively, VMG as aggressively. I had to steer up a couple of degrees to avoid that risk of crash jibing. But it affected me. It just was this slow burn of fatigue on me, because when I wanted the boat to perform, which was most of the time, then I stopped all of my downtime and I basically just steered the boat using the remote. So anytime I wasn't doing anything else, I was standing, looking at the sails, looking at the instruments, looking at the waves, and I was surfing down the waves with the pilot remote and then coming back up again. And I just did that constantly, and it's kind of the same as steering, with the tiller, but it doesn't hurt your arms as much. So that is, that made me more and more tired. But the other thing was that the navigation was, again, in the Southern Ocean, because it was reasonably simple. The working on spotting the wind shifts was comparatively easy, just using a compass and looking at the set of the sails, trying to work out what the wind angle was. But what was really difficult was the crossovers. So it's that nuance of that 10% performance. When do I change up? When do I change down? When should I reef? And then also it was just my performance against percentage polars. I had, again, it's that last 10% you're really struggling to find because you don't have the data.
But you had a little bit on before you sorted out the wind instruments, and it's got to be, for me, it's the standout moment of the entire race. Your rudder repair. Race manager Chris Stone told me he saw a video of you practicing that difficult repair before the race. What advice would you give an offshore sailor about what you did and what you learnt?
I think it's really interesting, when any of us do any of the RORC racing throughout the year, then we do the offshore special regs course. We keep that up to date, and there's that checklist that everybody fills in. What would you do? Have you got replacement steering? What would you do if you lost your rudder? And I think it's when you do this over and over again, and you see the form over and over again, it sometimes can become a bit of a tick box exercise. I did the course, but I think one of the things about the preparation for the Vendée was that we thought about every single possible thing that could happen to the boat on the way, and we prepared for it. And we didn't just prepare for it going, oh well, I'd use such and such and such and such. We made sure that the tools fitted. We made sure we had the right kit on board. And with the rudder replacement, we practiced it, because it's all very well saying, oh, I would do this and this and this. But actually, physically having those things in your hands, understanding how much weight you do need to pull that rudder out of the boat, how difficult is it to manoeuvre the string to get the stock back up through the hole, how much water comes in through the bottom bearing, There is no substitute for understanding those things, and any time that you can spend practicing, rehearsing, trying, it's time well spent. It really, really is, because stuff does happen. Quite nervous. And if I look back at the whole rudder replacement, the anticipation of it was difficult, and even the talking about it beforehand. I was sitting there going, I'm not sure if I can do this, I'm not sure if I can do this. But the moment I decided to do it, it happened. And it happened because I really, really knew what I was doing. None of it was a surprise to me. And I think if I had not done that practice, I really would have struggled, because I might not have even been able to visualise what it looked like. I was really, really tired. I'd had a brutal week after changing the rudder, and the boat was still taking on a lot of water, and the other boats in front of me are getting ahead of me, and I hadn't given myself enough time to recover, and Cape Horn just seemed to have been getting further away. And I kind of eventually got close enough to see the Chilean coast, and then came in really, really close. And I was pretty overwhelmed, actually, by how I felt, because, it's an iconic place for a sailor. Cape Horn. I'm really struggling for words. It's so amazing to see it. I've had such an awful day, and I'm just looking at it and I just think, I want this to be in my mind. I want it to be burned into my memory for the rest of my life. I can't believe I'm here. I'm so proud. I'm so happy to be here. It's magnificent. It's Cape Horn. Seeing Cape Horn anyway, I think, it's the stuff of myths and legends, and so to be there yourself is quite amazing. But it meant that I had sailed through the Southern Ocean on my own in an IMOCA, which was, sometimes in the moment, all the way through, I kept going, I'm doing the Vendée Globe. I'm doing the Vendée Globe. I'm doing the Vendée Globe. It kind of just, you almost don't quite believe that it's happening, but it is happening, because you're there, and I guess it was just this enforced endorsement of the fact that I wasn't just really doing the Vendée Globe. I was now 2/3 of the way through the Vendée Globe, and so it was a really fantastic moment, and I'm so pleased that I went in close, and pleased that I had the real chance to, and I spoke to the lighthouse keeper and all that sort of thing. So I think it was one of the best moments of the race, for sure. I think this is one of the proudest moments of my life. I'm about to turn to my last gate to try and fix my wind instruments. I think this is about the best opportunity I'm going to have. I was just getting so tired, and I could see that it was affecting my performance. I could see where I was losing ground, and I did not want to lose everything that I'd fought so hard for. And it was pretty obvious that the solution was to sort the wind instruments. But as you say, it was only going to get progressively worse and progressively harder, because the weather in the North Atlantic is and was complicated, difficult to manage, and I I wanted to carry on racing. I didn't want to just cruise to the finish.
Been looking at the weather again for the next couple of weeks and my approach into the finish, and we're being thrown some really curveballs, our little pack, trying to get up the Atlantic.
That weather system was, I still think that to date, that last weather system above the Azores is the most complicated weather system I've ever sailed through in my entire career. And you know, I could look to the synoptic chart, and it literally, I think I said in the press conference, it looked like somebody had vomited a load of fronts on a piece of paper. It was just, they're just everywhere. And all of these little secondary lows, and that's moving over in there, and that's moving over in there, and some symbols I'd never even seen before, and you kind of think, what the hell is that? Why do I deserve that? And we'd already had to sail 1,000 miles towards Canada to get round the Azores High, so you kind of just think, oh, enough now, this is not fair. But I think it also did I think it gave me opportunity. It made me feel like I had opportunity, because I knew if I was feeling like that, then everyone else was feeling like that. And so if I could try and manage that system well, then I might still have a chance of catching the two foiling boats ahead of me. And so initially I did have the fro initially, and I basically just had to work really, really, really hard, because it was squall after squall after squall. The wind was changing direction all the time, and there was absolutely no opportunity just to stick the pilot on and have a nice snooze. If you wanted to get ahead in that system, you had to work your socks off, and that's what I did. And I thought, okay, well, my opportunity then is to stay with the system, to go back into it, and then come up past Finisterre. And I actually lost my fro. Ironically, I lost my fro sort of just as I was riding the last front of that system to the east, and I'd already gained significant miles on them, and it was shaping up to look like the right tactic. But I was doing 18 knots, and the halyard lock just came off the mast, and did a really good job of trying to destroy my boat. But again, it's one of those moments of, oh, okay, right, this has happened, just sort it out. You just have to sort it out. And I ended up, because it was half in the water, it ripped the pulpit off, and I couldn't budge it. I couldn't even lift a tiny amount of it out of the water. The boat was still going. The only way I was ever going to get that sail out of and I had to get it out of the water because it was pulling down on the mast. I was worried about it cheese wiring the mast, and the only way I was ever going to get that sail out of the water was to actually to get the boat to take it out of the water. So I jibed the boat. I didn't crash jibe it, because it was gentle, but I basically jibed the boat. I left the keel on the wrong side. I pinned the main against the backstay, and I basically lay the boat over flat on its side with the fro on the upwind side, and that emptied all the water out of it, and then I pulled it back on board.
It was so worth doing. It would have been really easy just to go, fight's over, I'll just cruise to the finish. Not me. Job to be done. I'm going to do it. Feels good.
Do you know what? The last 6 hours were the most stressful of the whole race, because I had a keel line snap, so I had to go inside the keel box, inside the boat, and jury rig the keel to hold it into the middle, because there was had I been carried on racing, then I would have hove to or whatever to turn the boat downwind and made a system where I could have cant it, but it was kind of like I've only got 6 hours to go, so I'm just going to pin this into the middle. And then because of that, I had to sail under reduced sail, so the boat was going really slowly. And then because the boat was going really slowly, I didn't get in as quickly as I was hoping, so I started to get headed, and then all of a sudden I'm beating to the line, and then it's 30 knots, and then it seemed like every fishing boat in the Vendée region was out in front of me. At one stage I had 12 fishing boats on the radar in front of me, and it just was all of these situations that I'd spent the last 13 weeks avoiding, I was actively going into, because the finish is the only time where you're dictated by geography. Every other time you're making your decisions based on weather, and with the finish you say, okay, it doesn't matter, doesn't matter what the weather is, I have to go there, and so that's where I'm going. And so in a way, the part of your brain that has been making all these decisions about risk and reward for the last 13 weeks is screaming at you, going, what the hell are you doing? Because you have to change it. And so, I'd be interested to see how some of the other skippers felt about it. But coming in at night time with all those fishing boats beating in 30 knots of wind with a keel that's pinned in the middle was just so stressful. And then I didn't know what to expect at the finish. I knew that a rib would be coming out with there were 6 people there for me, but I didn't know what else, because I didn't know what was allowed. France was in curfew, and my rib came out, and I could see they were sort of hanging off a bit because I still had to do a tack, and they said they would hang off me a bit so I could tack without worrying about them. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, this armada of lights appears. I don't know how many boats there were. There must have been 25, 30 boats from the Vendée organisation, and they've all got these flashing blue lights, and they came out in this formation, and they're just everywhere, and and it just it was just I'm still speechless, because I just wasn't prepared for it, and then you finished, and that it doesn't quite sink in, it doesn't. I don't know. It still feels. I'm so happy and so proud, but in a way, I almost can't believe that I've done it. It's so strange. I don't know how to articulate it.
Oh.
So I think in your head, certainly as I said, one of the things I've learned is to hang back a bit and be more strategic. I definitely learnt. I have always been a very feely sailor, and I've learnt. Feel is really, really important, but actually, you have to use the data as well. And I definitely learnt to be more analytical in my approach, and that's really important. I think you just have to have this there has to be this inner resolve that you will not give up regardless. If there is any tiny part of you that is gonna fold at a problem, then the Vendée Globe will find it, and it will pull it out of you. So you just have to, and I think that resolve comes from passion. You've got to be passionate. You have to want to be there. Don't do it for any other reason other than you think you're going to love it.